Hello friends, my name is Marines, and for those of you who don't know, I run a website where we recap TV and books. Almost 2 years ago, we started recapping the Twilight Saga, and oh boy.
Hey guys, it's Kirsty. Welcome to another exciting midway-ish point installment of the Snark Ladies Hate the Twilight series.
Hey guys, it's me, Catherine, here to pretend that I wear this much makeup normally and talk about chapter 18 of Breaking Dawn.
We've reached the midway point of the final book, Breaking Dawn, and whenever we reach the midway point of any of the books, we do a video recap of it, just kind of celebrating the milestone. And trust me that when you're reading a book as bad as this, a celebration is totally in order. Now I can already hear Kirsty saying that we're not actually halfway through the book, but I go by what's in my Kindle, and whatever chapter contains the 50% mark in the Kindle is what I count as the midway, so that's how I calculated that.
You guys, I just checked the book, and all the shit that we have gone through so far, we're not even halfway yet. Like, we have suffered through Bella and Edward getting married, through Bella and Edward's sexcapades, through Edward biting pillows, through Bella getting mysteriously pregnant and then having an insta-growing baby, and then that whole chunk of the book from Jacob's perspective, and the most traumatic childbirth scene of all time ever. And we're not even halfway through this train wreck of a book. Somebody just put me out of my goddamn misery. I don't know if I can do this. Anyway, we have made it to book 3, which is sadly titled Bella, and lets us know that we will be back to her perspective, although, to be honest, Jacob's was probably worse. Bella's is just boring.
When we left off in chapter 18, Edward had just chewed out his own baby with his vampire teeth, and Bella was maybe dead, and Jacob had run away because of his feelings, only to come face to face with the vampire baby and fall in love with the baby. He fell in.
We open with a preface in typical Stephenie Meyer's fashion that like jumps forward to how the book is going to end, but also might be a dream and you're not entirely sure what's going on. Like basically it's Bella being like, we're all gonna die. Dude, we've had like 2,500 pages of this shit. Nobody has died yet. I'm so fucking mad.
So this chapter starts off with one of Bella's prophetic dreams, which you may be thinking, oh, like that's her power. She's got it, it's a vampire power. No. That's not a vampire power. She doesn't, that's not connected. She just keeps having these prophetic dreams and then Meyer never explains it. It's not even like a thing that comes up. So in this dream, she is protecting a precious one, and there's a line of black cloaks advancing toward her, which she realizes is the Volturi, which is actually pretty good for her to kind of make that connection. But at the end of this vision / dream / plot device / my wrist, she realizes that she's hungry for the Volturi to attack rather than nervous about it.
The section starts off with a preface because Stephenie Meyer literally does not know how to start things unless it's with a spoilery prophecy dream.
Jumping into chapter 19, we basically get the entire childbirth thing again, but from Bella's perspective, which basically means that she spends a lot of time talking about pain. And we get some delightful lines like this one. Reality was red, and it felt like I was being sawed in half, hit by a bus, punched by a prizefighter, trampled by bulls, and submerged in acid, all at the same time. Jesus Christ, that is melodramatic, Steph.
She also realizes that there's something more important than the pain, but she can't remember what it is. And heads up, it's your baby, and it's being slobbered over by a grown man right now, so you need to wake up.
The chapter proper starts with Bella reliving how she got here. She says one moment everything was as it should be since she was surrounded by people she loved and everybody was smiling. That's a very romantic view of what was actually happening, seeing as how she was being beat up from the inside out by a super fast growing vampire baby and everyone surrounding her was freaked out by it in one way or another. But okay, everything was as it should be. Bella's complete misunderstanding of her entire situation continues as she says that just one tiny inconsequential thing went wrong. She dropped the cup of blood that she was drinking and she bent down to pick it up. I personally think that if you found yourself in a situation where you're drinking blood out of a styrofoam cup with a bendy straw, many very big, very consequential things have gone wrong.
Bella says that she remembers everything being fine before and being surrounded by like love and light and happiness. And then one tiny, inconsequential thing came and ruined everything. And I thought that was kind of funny because if you remember, shortly before she died, her spine snaps and she broke a bunch of ribs, and she was being like having her life sucked out of her by this whole damn pregnancy thing. So it's pretty hilarious that she's like, everything's as it should have been, I was so happy. It's like, what? It's like such a creepy cult thing to have to be, oh, I was so wonderful and happy, I was finally breathing, whatever, like, that's really creepy.
That's when she first blacks out, but not like you and I would black out. Like a character written by a terrible author who constantly cheats at narration would black out, meaning that she blacks out with lots of detail. She can hear voices, she describes her breathing, she can feel her husband chewing through her skin with his poisonous fangs. Never gonna let that one go.
She screams at Edward to get the baby out. He's like, no, we need to wait for painkillers, and she's like, fuck that shit, get the baby out right now before it dies.
Bella describes her labor, and it is enough to put you off of having babies forever. It's enough where if you've already had a baby, you want to go back in time and punch yourself in the face, because it's horrifying.
Black spots covered the light in the room as a cold point of new pain stabbed icily into my stomach. That's Edward biting the fuck out of her, by the way. It felt wrong. I struggled automatically to protect my womb, my baby, my little Edward Jacob.
We got most of this detailed through Jacob's point of view, but Meyer is so evil that she's reliving it one chapter later with absolutely no added information. Free writing tip: don't do this. After Bella blacks out and comes to again, she wonders how long it's been since her husband chewed through her skin with his poisonous fangs. She can hear Jacob trying to do CPR on her, and I'm not a medical professional, but I don't think you're supposed to do CPR on people who can hear you or whose hearts are already beating. I mean, I could verify both of those things, but then I would be doing more research for this than Stephanie Meyer did. Oh, wait, I read on and it turns out that Bella's heart isn't beating right now. She's just hearing all of this by magic. I don't know.
And then she hears Jacob yelling at her to not die and stuff, and she tries to feel her heart, like actual quote. I tried to feel my heart. Maybe don't do that? Unless you're having open heart surgery. And even then, you should be unconscious.
She says, I tried to feel my heart, to find it, but I was so lost inside my body, I couldn't feel things I should, and nothing felt in the right place. I blinked, and I found my eyes. I could see the light. Not what I was looking for, but better than nothing. I blinked, and I found my eyes. I blinked, and I found my eyes. Classic. As Bella's recently found eyes try to adjust, and no word on whether or not she ever found her heart, but she's doing pretty well without it, Edward whispers Renesmee at her. And even though that sounds like some kind of incantation, it's actually just the name of their super fast growing baby vampire. Bella is shocked that she didn't have a baby boy, which she could then name after her husband and her ex-boyfriend at the same time.
She also, when she was almost dying, she kept referring to her baby as him again, and EJ or Edward Jacob. And I was struck by that because there's no reason at this point. They know it's a girl. Edward already Skyped it in her womb, so I don't know why she keeps referring to it as him, but she does still up until the point when she's actually giving birth to Renesmee. But you know.
And then we get a description of the baby, which nobody gives a shit about because she looks like a fucking baby, except for the fact that she has teeth. And not just one tooth, because some babies are actually born with one tooth, but no. She's born with a full set of teeth, which is fucking terrifying.
And the baby comes out and she says that it has milk teeth, which, that's horrifying. Babies, you'll notice, typically don't have teeth when they come out of the womb. Dogs do. Babies, not so much. Because, by the time babies grow teeth, they're usually kind of done breastfeeding. So all I could think about at that point was, this baby has, vampire fangs? She doesn't say that, but if it has vampire fangs, breastfeeding is kind of horrifying.
Bella describes the perfect and beautiful whiteness of her baby and calls her perfect and beautiful, and Renesmee smiles back. And not only did this baby come out into the world via teeth, she already has teeth. meaning she probably could have chewed her own way out. Renesmee isn't crying, but she is breathing in quick, startled pants. Maybe this baby is really shocked. Maybe she's still a little shook over being brought into this world via teeth. Or maybe she inherited her mother's complete inability to breathe normally.
So they take the baby away from her as soon as she gives birth, and she's like reaching for it, and then she dies. And I shouldn't laugh because it's not supposed to be funny. I get it, it's supposed to be pretty sad. But the image of her just being like, oh my god, really made me laugh a lot in rereading this. I think the first time I read it, I did not laugh.
Bella once again describes blacking out, and I'm honestly seriously impressed with how many times that has happened already in this chapter. Somebody should have told Stephenie Meyer that she can just take a break when her character blacks the hell out.
And then Bella blacks out, but she still continues to narrate the story because cheatery narration is what Stephenie Meyer does best. It includes the phrase, "My arms felt like empty rubber hoses," and what?
Alas, Bella tells us that she's struggling against the blackness because now she has Renesmee and she has Edward, and she doesn't want to hurt them by dying, and she also doesn't want to hurt Jacob again for the millionth time, who she's hurt in the past by, I don't know, having agency and not wanting his wolf breath in her face.
But what brings her back to life, what stops her from dying, is my little nudger. Yes, she decides to live for her baby, but she doesn't word it as, I decide to live for my baby. She words it as, my little nudger, which just so creepy.
Bella continues to describe blacking out for another 2 pages, I swear to God.
And then she starts to feel incredibly hot, specifically in the place where Edward is injecting her with his venom, and she says that it's like grabbing the wrong end of a curling iron, and I'm like, of course, Bella Swan, clumsiest person on the face of the fucking earth, would know what grabbing the hot end of a curling iron is like.
Her body starts to get overheated, and this moment is brilliantly described by Stephenie Meyer as like that moment when you grab the wrong end of a curling iron. That kind of takes a little bit of the drama of what's going on. If you're describing your vampiric transformation on the same level as a curling iron, I just feel like you've sucked some of the adventure out of it. I don't know. Just me? Next, Bella thinks about all of those other times that she's almost died and decides that this time is definitely worse.
She says that her mind is incredibly clear despite all of this incredible pain, and realizes that it's the combination of venom and morphine that is causing it, and like it's making her basically trapped in her own body, but she's still completely lucid. And like, I'm not sure that's what morphine does. So basically she spends a lot of time thinking about how she just wants to die, she just wants them to let her die, but she knows that she needs to keep quiet, like she can't scream because it will just torture Edward if he knows that he's causing her pain as he kills her. Yeah, that is a thing that happens.
So she's turning, and they gave her morphine to help with it, and she's turning into a vampire, and all she can talk about is that it's like paralyzing her, and it's like this fire is like, you know, rushing through her and burning her, and the burning. She uses a lot more words than that, by the way. And she tries to keep herself quiet and not scream because she thinks it will hurt Edward if he sees how much pain she is. Keep in mind, she's literally dying. Like, she's in a tremendous amount of pain. Not just like childbirth level, but like worse, because she's like, she feels like she's on fire. By the end of it, she says she feels like a charcoal briquette. So she's trying to stow her screaming and her pain. And she's like, oh, if Edward's nearby, I don't want him to hear me screaming because he'll be sad. I don't even know what to think about that.
The morphine starts to fade, and she starts to get this like sick, twisted sounding new appreciation for the pain that she's going through. Which, what the fuck?
Her body is getting stronger, and she's regaining some of her sense of time. It's funny that at least she's regaining some sense of time, because whenever I read these chapters, I honestly have none. Like, how long have we been reading this? I don't know. Too long.
She hears Edward and Carlisle talking about her while she's still paralysed and unable to speak because more cheatery narration. She wonders why the baby's not there, and then Edward and Carlisle have this conversation where it's clearly going to be incredibly significant into the future, but like at the moment it's just vague and pointless, and like I don't even know why this was included.
They have some kind of cryptic conversation about taking sides that Bella doesn't understand, and I'm certainly not going to try to.
Carlisle is talking to Edward, And he reassures Edward, that Bella's doing alright and the baby is doing well and all this. And Bella doesn't realize that they're talking about baby, but they say something about, Edward says something about, oh, they'll work it out. And Carlisle says that Jacob's imprinting which Bella doesn't know what they're talking about, but Carlisle says that Jacob's imprinting is an interesting situation. And I feel like he's in a unique position to call that the understatement of the fucking century, because it's a pretty interesting situation that this grown man has fallen in love with this baby, and maybe you guys should, do something about that. I don't know if interesting is the word I would use. Edward says that he'd love to flog them both. He's talking about Rosalie and Jacob fighting over the baby, or who gets to eat it or fuck it or whatever. And the flogging thing struck me as more inspiration for ELJ. Flogging. And he also says, well, I'll do it later at the end, okay, buddy.
Bella counts Edward's breaths as a way of keeping track of time, and good God, I miss Buffy, where Angel didn't breathe.
Bella can't tell what time it is, can't tell how much time is passing, so she starts to count Edward's breaths. She gets hundreds of thousands and stuff. I didn't really think he breathed that much because he's a vampire, but I guess he does.
And then a rhythmic set of footsteps enters the room, so of course it's Alice. Alice is basically there to assure Edward that Bella is going to be totally fine because she's seen it.
Alice is the next visitor, and she also reassures Edward that everything is going to be fine, and she knows this because she can see Bella clear now with her contrivancy powers. She can see vampires very well because she is one, and she can see humans decently well because she used to be one, but she can't see odd half-breeds, and by that I'm guessing she means the werewolves, which, drinks to uncomfortable statements you can make about the only non-white people in your series. Woo!
Alice dances into the room, and she said Bella's going to be waking up soon, and she's seen it on the vision, and so everything's great, and she says she's going to be dazzling. Meyer loves that word. And she says that Bella's already very beautiful, she's already gotten hotter, which is the dream. That you'll die, but you'll get hotter. People keep saying her corpse is hot. I don't know why. I wish it would stop.
As Alice leaves the room, Bella hears some conversations happening downstairs, and she's like, oh my god, I have super hearing now, or whatever.
She hears Rosalie and Jacob downstairs arguing. And being like, oh, it's my turn! And there's no more, turn to do what? What are you doing to this baby? This is so weird. Rosalie's like, it's my turn. I guess they mean to hold her, to take care of her, to feed her or something, but considering the circumstances, it comes off really weird. Are they going to eat it or fuck it? Please answer this question for me. Zodiac Killer, definitely Hunter.
Bella uses her newly improved hearing to super hear everyone downstairs, and they're fighting over a turn for something and also watching a baseball game. But baseball isn't interesting enough to distract Bella from her pain, so she goes back to listening to Edward breathe, because that is interesting enough. Breathing.
So more time passes, and the pain starts to recede from Bella's fingers and her toes. She thinks a lot about her fingers and her toes, more than anyone over 6.
Suddenly the pain changes, and Bella doesn't feel like she's on fire anymore, she just feels like her throat is on fire, and basically this is her bloodthirst coming into it, and gross. Her heart starts pounding like crazy, and Edward calls out for Carlisle because clearly something big is about to happen, and Bella just wants to see the baby, but of course she still can't talk because that would cause Edward pain, blah 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 blah. Get to the fucking point.
Edward calls everybody into the room but tells them to leave the baby downstairs so Bella won't eat her, I guess.
Carlisle comes into the room. Edward hears her heart start to elevate. So Carlisle comes into the room and he says, oh, she's about to wake up. He's looking at her vitals and stuff. And Edward tells Alice to make sure to keep the baby away, and Bella's like, oh no, don't keep my baby away. But, that's... They're worried she's gonna eat it. There's really no other way to put that. They're worried she's gonna eat it.
And then suddenly Bella opens her eyes and we cut the chapter. And I'm glad somebody isn't experiencing pain any longer.
Anyway, her heart stops, the pain vanishes, she opens her eyes and looks around her with wonder, and this endless chapter finally ends. Thank fuck for that, because that was pointless.
I felt like in this chapter there was a lot of weird stuff. Mostly the thing I came away with the most was that she was trying to not show her death agony to Edward, and she also didn't want to die because she thought it would disappoint Edward and Jacob. That's the whole point of this chapter. I feel like is that she's going to disappoint them by dying, which is a really weird message to send to young girls.
We took a really long break between chapter 18 and doing these videos. Most of it was my fault, and not only because I've gotten increasingly busy, so Snark Squad stuff always takes a hit when that happens. I was actively reading chapter 19 for weeks, and I could not get past a few sentences at a time because it was just so stupid. That's it for us today. You guys can check back on the blog as we try and finish up the last half of one of the worst things I've ever read in my life. See you there.
So that's it. So thanks for watching, and see you guys later. Bye.
We will see you back on the blog next time. Bye, guys.
Which I guess Edward's a mouth breather, and that makes sense.
And Bella says, "Not the pale and perfect son of my imagination, I felt a moment of shock. I just don't care."
Bella wills her body into talking and moving, and none of this sequence of events makes any sense to me.
Then Renesmee bites Bella on the boob because apparently breastfeeding a newborn with teeth is a terrible idea.
So Emmett tries to kind of dad Rosalie and Jacob. He's like, "Hey guys, don't fight over the baby. We all get to eat it in fucking." Probably.
Thanks to baby magic, now that Bella is holding the little killer, everything is all clear.
And, I just don't care.